Brad, great DIY. I'm going to show you how to make pizza dough in 5 minutes. What I'm going to use, 2½ cups warm water, 3 teaspoons of sugar, 3 teaspoons of yeast, a little bit of olive oil, 3 tablespoons, a dash of salt, and 5¼ to 5½ cups of flour. It just depends on how smooth it goes. Warm water, 2½ cups. 3 tablespoons of yeast. 1, 2, 3. I don't have any particular style here. I just go for it. 3, 1, 2. This is sugar. 3 sugars. I don't use an electric mixer. I just blend this using this bowl and a fork. 3 tablespoons of olive oil. You can use canola oil or any other oil you want. Dash of salt. Whatever works for you. And then a bunch of flour. I just buy it in bulk. And I kind of wing it. 1, depending on the texture. If I want it a little drier. 2, 3, somebody keep track of this. 3, 4, 5, and a ½ cup. I have a ¼ cup here. I'm just going to do this twice. I might need more. Mix it up. We'll mix it up into a ball. Then I have this little plastic bowl with a cover. You gotta cover this. And this is gonna take a while. Depending on the external temperature that this dough is sitting in, you may need 3 to 4 hours. You want this to rise twice at least, more if you are inclined to do that. I like a semi-dry. What do I mean by dry? I want to be able to roll this into a ball so it doesn't stick to my fingers, and then have it not too terribly dry to roll. In other words, I got to roll this out to make the pizza dough. I need to roll out the pizza dough. And I just work it in. Notice how it's blended in here, and it's still sticking to my fingers a little bit. I'm going to dust this. See, it's still a little too wet. But you don't want to overdo it so it's super, super tough. And I'm actually just going to knead it in this bowl instead of, I can use a cutting board. I could roll it, I can knead it on a cutting board, but this has worked just fine. It's only pizza dough. You see how easy it rolls off? That's a good sign that I'm doing something close to being right. Still a little wet here. I don't want it wet because it makes it really, really hard to roll out when you're doing when you roll this out for your pizza. And that's about it. That's all I'm going to do. Now, I might let it rise once and then knead it, but typically that's all I do. And I don't know if that's 5 minutes, but this is enough pizza dough for 4 pizzas. And here's the typical size. These are really thin pizza. It's just thin pizza dough. I don't like the thick stuff. But that's it. That's all I'm going to do. I don't know if that was 5 minutes, but I'll edit this to 5 minutes. All I'm going to do is throw it in here, smooth it out, dust it with a little bit of flour, and that's how I make my pizza dough. For the pizza dough, you want to let it rise a couple times. That could take 3 or 4 hours. What you do after the first rise, you just tap it down. It needs to be an airproof or airtight container. You're just gonna tap it down to set it. Once it rises, let it rise again, and then do it again so it flattens out. Then you're gonna roll it out to whatever size you want. As I said, I'll cut this in quarters, 1, 2, 3, 4, so I have 4 pizza sections, and then I'll roll those out, and I'll make a different video on how I roll out my pizza dough. Now you can see this is nearly 3 hours, and this is the first rise in a cool environment. If you're in a warmer environment, clearly this will rise, but this is just an FYI that it could take 5 to 6 hours to get this to rise a couple times. What I'm gonna do, once this hits the top here, I'm gonna tap it down. It'll flatten back down, then it will rise again. It usually will rise considerably faster the second time around, but as the day wears on, it's gonna probably get a little bit cooler. I'm estimating this will probably take nearly 6 hours to get the dough to rise twice. I'll show you the second rise. Now nearly 4 hours in, I suspect, 60-degree temperature. There's the first rise. Just tap it. It should deflate and just allow it to repeat, rise again. Give it a couple hours. You can pull it out and knead it if you want. In other words, just you can release all the air, but it'll take forever to rise the second time. If this was in a tin or aluminum type container with a lid, you could put it in the oven on warm temperature to move this along much faster, but I'm not in a hurry, so this works for me. Here's the dough after the second rise. The room temperature has been about 60 degrees. This is ideal. In the summertime, you're gonna need to monitor it. But that's all I do. In terms of prep for the actual pizza, now be careful here. You wanna cut these in quarters, and if you miss it, you're gonna have one pizza thicker than the other. Now, that might not be a big deal, but sometimes consistency is key. All I do is split it in fourths. I just eye it. That's it. That's how you make enough dough for 4 pizzas. If you like this kind of stuff, give me a thumbs up, a like, comment, all that other stuff. Brad at Grit DIY. Thanks for watching. Hope that helps. See you soon.